Coming at you live. It is your boy Skillz with the latest installment of Skillz on Sportz. Back again, we've been off for about a month. It's been a minute since we recorded, and there's reasons why for that. The main reason being it's just simply not as peaceful in these parts as it once was. And finding time to sneak in a recording or two when the dogs aren't barking or the children aren't chasing and screaming and attacking each other outside my windows and doors is not as opportune as it once was. But I found some time and we're going to try to get a show in here on October 25th, 2024. We were about, what, that would make it 20 hours? No, not 20, maybe more like 15 hours away from, well, more like 17 hours away from the first pitch of the 2024 World Series, which I likely will not be watching. Well, I'm going to have to watch some of it for show purposes. You can't have me talking sports and not at least seeing some of what's going on in this horribly set up World Series between the New York Yankees, who I don't like, and the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I absolutely detest. You see, it's like this. As a Giants fan, I'm a Giants fan, San Francisco Giants fan. You know I have to, by law, loathe everything Dodger related, and I pretty much do. Although I do have respect for certain players on their roster. I do have respect for their manager, Dave Roberts, who I've met and shaken hands with. Still hasn't fully regained proper shape. Thanks, Dave. The guy's strong as a freaking ox. You wouldn't think so looking at it, but good Lord. But here we are. The Guardians were the team I was pulling for to go to the World Series and to win the World Series. They, of course, have not won a World Series since 1948. They have not been to a World Series since 2016, when they narrowly lost that 7-game series to the Cubs, which would have broken my heart had it not been for the fact that the Cubs also had a stupidly long championship drought to get rid of, and they did so. They've been sitting on 108 years, I think, by that point, before they knocked off the then Cleveland Indians, in spite of that incredible Rajai Davis home run off of Aroldis Chapman, which, man, that's one of the greatest moments in baseball history right there, is that home run by Rajai Davis, who was not a power hitter at any point in his career, but muscled up against Chapman that night, letting him supply the power and almost pulling the Indians to victory. And the Indians/Guardians franchise they don't get credit for the sustained run of quality teams they've put out. And this is just something I noticed, because it seems like every couple of years they're in the playoffs, or at least pushing for a spot close to it, whether it's wild card, whether it's division winner, whether it's well, I guess that's the only two ways you can make it now, wild card, division winner. But they're there. They're always right there, it seems like, except for maybe the mid-2000s, when they fell off a little bit after losing Jim Thome and all those other guys that they lost prior to him. In those middle O's aside, they've been in the playoffs or close to a spot just about every year. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let's go back to when Progressive Field opened in 1994. Progressive Field, which of course was Jacobs Field when it first opened back in 1994. What a beautiful park it was and still is, named after the owner of the Cleveland franchise, Richard Jacobs. Let's count 94 as a playoff season. Even though there was no playoffs that year, the Indians were one of the best teams in baseball, maybe the best team in baseball. They would have certainly, at the very least, won a wild card spot, because they were neck and neck with the White Sox that year in the American League Central. So if we're counting 94 as a playoff year, all the way through 2024, the Guardians franchise has only missed the playoffs 8 years in that 31 season period. 8 times. They've made the playoffs 23 out of 31 of those seasons, if you count 94 as a playoff season, as I am. And the New York Yankees are probably the only team that even comes close to, or they're definitely the only team that comes close to that. I know the Yankees have only missed the playoffs a handful of times since 94, or they rose to, they rediscovered success around that same time that the Indians rose up to success back in the mid-90s under first Buck Showalter and then Joe Torre. And they've been consistently winning. They haven't had a losing season since, I believe, 91 was the last losing season they had. And they've had I'm not making that up. They've been a winning team. They've had a winning record every year since 1992. They haven't made the playoffs every one of those years. They've missed. I know they missed in 92, 93. They missed in 08 before they won the World Series the next year under Joe Girardi. And then they missed last year. They've missed a couple years in between too under Girardi. So, which is why he's not the manager anymore. And so you gotta credit, if you're gonna credit the Yankees for being a power, they've only won one more World Series since 2000, since the 2000 season ended. They've only won one more World Series than the Indian Guardians have. Should I just call them the DNs? To cover Guardians and Indians at the same time. I don't want to just say Cleveland, because that's what Topps does, and that's gonna be my Skills on Sports right here in a little bit if I remember to do it. You know, there's a lot of young, hungry talent on that Cleveland roster. If you don't know who David Fry is, you need to know. He's a catcher by trade. He plays 6 positions aside from catcher. He's a sturdy, strong righty hitter, and he hit that 3-run, or was it 3-run? I forget how many runs around base, but he hit that walk-off home run in Game 3 of the ALCS last week. And I tell you, when I tell you what it was what you would call a grown man's home run. There's home runs. Anybody in Major League Baseball just about can hit a ball over a fence. Anybody in Major League Baseball can stand there looking like, half paralyzed, unable to move, lost in the moment, comatose, catatonic after they hit the home run or whatever. But it takes a grown man to hit that ball that hard, that far, in that situation, know that it's gone, and pose like a G. And David Fry did all those things and more. Man, I was very even if I wasn't pulling for the Guardians, I would have been very impressed with that home run to walk off Game 3 last week. David Fry, good for you. Big Christmas. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name, but his last name is Noel. That's the guy. He reminds me a lot of Franmil Reyes, the former Indian, and boy, that's a career that just ended suddenly, or at least it is on serious hold. Franmil Reyes was a 30 home run beast just 3-4 years ago, and then now he's been out of the game. He's out of the game. I think if he played last year, it wasn't for long. Cleveland just cut him. I don't know why. I don't know why. No, nothing's ever been said publicly. Was he just a jerk? It could have been. We all know he struck out a lot. We all know he has problems there making contact, but you usually don't give up on big young sluggers with controllable contracts that soon unless there's extenuating circumstances. And Franmil Reyes, I haven't heard anything bad about him specifically. Pardon me, I'm getting over a cold, people. You gotta bear with me here. There's still some remnants swimming around in my bloodstream, in my tissues. I'm carrying around whatever, God knows what, but it's on its way out. Reyes, you just usually don't give up on guys that quick. I don't know what kind of guy he was in the clubhouse. I don't know what his whole situation was off the field, but I do know that he was a huge man who could hit baseballs very, very hard, very, very far. Not as consistently as you would like in his last couple of years because of the strikeouts, but the talent and the potential was there. Apparently Cleveland disagreed. They had the reason for letting him go, and why none of the other 29 teams thought to bring him in an era where offense is not as. That is the reason why they brought Franmil Reyes in, because he doesn't do anything that anyone else can't do these days in the big leagues, which is hit home runs and strike out a lot. And if you can find guys who can do what he can do, and there's, can they hit 30 a year? That's debatable. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Big Christmas also had a huge home run prior to Fry's walk-off in that game. He's a guy, even though he had a low batting average, he had some problems with contact. He's a product of his time. He's a guy to watch out for in the next couple of years. I think a little bit of, he reminds me a little bit of Akil Baddoo during Baddoo's first year with the Detroit Tigers when he was a sensation. I believe that was 2020 when Baddoo was a sensation and looked to have a very bright future in Detroit. Now that hasn't really worked out so well since. I think he's since been sent back to the minor leagues. Okay, here goes my throw it again. People, don't worry, that will all be edited out. Getting back to Noel, I like what I see in him. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a very fast bat. He can mash, obviously, and the Guardians have a way of using their entire roster. I don't know what their plans are for him heading into next season, but they'd be a fool to not at least try him out there at the beginning of the season, see what he can do on a regular basis. I know I would if I were Stephen Vogt. And here's a reminder: I was in preparation of one of my upcoming projects, which is my favorite MLB home runs of my fandom, which is going to be going back to 1990. All my favorite 100 home runs hit by all major leaguers, which is going to lean a little bit towards the Giants, but not as much as you would think. Right? I think maybe 10 or 12 of them might belong to the Giants. I was very careful to not lean too hard on favor too strongly towards my Giants, because I could easily probably pick 100 Giants home runs, maybe not 100, but at least 50. I could pick 50 home runs by the Giants themselves alone and make a list. And maybe I'll do that someday. But right now I'm focusing on Major League Baseball, focusing on all 30 teams, and we're gonna eventually have that video out for you on youtube.com/@the Skillz Report. That will be up sometime, hopefully before Christmas, if I'm able to get on my production schedule back where it needs to be. Here's the thing: that making that list reminded me of a home run that I forgot, which truly is one of my favorites. And Stephen Vogt is a guy who played for the Giants, best known for the Oakland A's, of course. Also played for the Giants. I believe that was in 2020, or maybe it was 19, 20, or 20. It was somewhere in that range. Stephen Vogt suited up for the Giants as a backup. And so you get to quote unquote know people when they're on your team, and I already knew quote unquote Stephen Vogt from all his time with the Athletics. I believe in Stephen Vogt. I believe in Stephen Vogt. Which really all that chant ever did was remind me of the MASH theme, but whatever. Stephen Vogt had a very good career for the A's. It ended very suddenly in the middle of the 2017 season, I think it was. He'd been an all-star for the A's, sort of by default, but not entirely. And then suddenly they just cut him loose, because that's what A's teams do. And in that period, they were just setting up for what they would eventually start doing for all their other star players in the upcoming years, which is ship him out of town. But Vogt's departure, because he wasn't making a ton of money, he was someone everyone respected, and still he was cut. If I want, I don't think it was his bobblehead night. I know they did that for Jason Giambi, but they cut him before his bobblehead night. But did Vogt have a bobblehead? I have to look that up. But in any event, Vogt was out in Oakland, eventually landed with San Francisco after a stop in Milwaukee, I believe. But he finished up back with who was his final team? See, these are the kind of things. I'm doing this with no notes, people. I didn't look this stuff up, because I wasn't planning to talk about Stephen Vogt tonight. But he homered in his final major league at bat, which is about as badass as it gets. That's Ted Williams stuff right there. Ted Williams, homered in his final major league at bat, knowing he was going to retire. 1960, bam, home run. I believe he was, he was 82 when he passed, and that was in 02, so that would have made him 40 when he hit that home run. And it's not often guys can go out like that and just leave you wanting more. Most of the time when a player's career ends, he leaves you wanting less. And Derek Jeter had a great final hit, at least on the road, when he had that walk-off hit against the Red Sox at, I think it was his final Yankee Stadium at bat, though he did play some more in Boston over the weekend. But Stephen Vogt's a homer on the last at bat of his career was, hey, that's what we all want to do. We would all, whether you're a singer, if you want to end your singing career, you want to go out on top with a Grammy, right? Or with a top-selling album. If you're a plumber, if I were a plumber, I'd want to go out. I'd want to reach into that drain, pull out all kinds of gunk. I want to pull out like a hard-boiled egg that's decomposing but still blocking the drain. I want to yank all that out. If I gotta pull tree roots out of the pipes, I'm gonna rip that out, hold it up like freaking Simba from The Lion King, show it to the homeowner, and then I'm out. And my plumbing career is over. That's how I would do it. You leave in style. You leave them wanting more. So just a little passing mention for Stephen Vogt. Great year as a manager. If he doesn't win Manager of the Year, then there's something wrong. There is really no one who did a better managerial job than he did. Yeah, Aaron Boone made it to the World Series with the Yankees, but Aaron Boone had Juan Soto on his roster this year. Aaron Boone had Giancarlo Stanton mostly healthy for once. Aaron Boone had Aaron Judge. Stephen Vogt had Jose Ramirez, who's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's not on any of their levels. And a bunch of other, scrap parts who on paper, I'm guessing that maybe 10% of the country at most has ever even heard of. I follow this sport, and I've never heard of half of these guys until I make a point of looking them up. These Yankees in the World Series, I mentioned Giancarlo Stanton. Here's a guy who easily deserved, well, I won't say easily because there was a number of different contributors to the Yankees in the ALCS, but he was a very deserving winner of the American League Championship Series MVP award. And Giancarlo Stanton is a very, 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 his history will look back on him with a lot of confusion. Because here's a guy who was an MVP, home run champ, once hit 59 home runs in a season. This is just a couple years after having his face exploded by a fastball, literally caved in. He's a guy who, since he's come to the Yankees, has made a lot of money. He was the first $300 million man thanks to the Miami Marlins, as you recall. I knew that wasn't going to work out. What did he make it 3 or 4 years of those 10? Comes to the Yankees, puts up decent but certainly not great numbers when he's able to even play, but he misses a ton of time. I mean a ton of time. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know he's missed for probably at the very least 40% of the games he could have played in his Yankees. He's probably missed them. And he's had some pretty gnarly injuries, hamstrings, and the list goes on. I can't even name them all. There's been so many. But Stanton still, in spite of that, he's still only, quote-unquote, 35 years old. He's the all-time active, well, he's the active home run leader. I believe he has 423 in the regular season, somewhere around there. I'll look it up. And he has a legit chance, if he's blessed with decent health, and they keep him at DH, and he doesn't rip something while running the bases, which, if you've seen some of the highlights this year, he's not breaking any speed records on the base pass, I promise you that. He's got a chance of 500 homers. He's got a legit chance of 500 career homers or more. And for a guy like Stanton, whose other numbers leave a lot to be desired, his batting average usually is below 250. He strikes out a ton, not obscenely, like we're not talking Chris Davis Orioles levels, but more than what you'd want. The question is going to be, whenever he retires 5 years after that, is there a spot in the Hall of Fame for him? Now, I've gone on record, the Hall of Fame doesn't even really register with me anymore. They've turned it into a farce. Electing some guys, not electing other guys. You put Scott Rowland in the Hall of Fame, you don't put Pete Rose in it, which is another story for another day. You do that, and it doesn't carry the same weight as it might have once. And that's why I'm creating my own Hall of Fame equivalent called Plates of Greatness. Skillz Savage Plates of Greatness. And I've talked about this on other YouTube videos I've made. It's in the very early stages. There's research that has to be done, and I have projects up to my nose. So it is coming, and you will like it. It is unique, and you will like it unless you're a fan of unless you're not a fan of the steroid era and you're totally against those guys who participated in that and inflated their numbers, possibly because of that. Using PEDs, I'm not one of those people who's going to hold that against them, because I believe that everyone was using PEDs just about, at least enough to where the playing field is level enough. So I'm not in my Plates of Greatness. Receiving a spot in a Plate of Greatness will be Barry Bonds. Receiving a spot with a Plate of Greatness in the Plate of Greatness will be Rafael Palmeiro, will be Sammy Sosa, will be Mark McGwire, because you cannot honestly tell me they weren't great players. However they became great, I'm not concerned with how they became great or how they didn't become great. I'm not concerned with any of that. That's not what this is for. This is just to celebrate the sport of baseball and those who played it. And you can disagree with me if you want. I'm not really worried about it. The thing is, when Giancarlo Stanton, who's never been accused of any sort of PED use or any other nefarious behavior, is eligible for the Hall of Fame, will he be voted in? Even with 500 plus home runs? There are no 500 home run hitters without PED controversy swirling around them who did not get elected to the Hall of Fame that are eligible. Albert Pujols is not eligible yet. He will be in unless something comes out. He goes to Congress. I have never used steroids, period. I'm not here to talk about the past. Okay? ¿Qué habla? See? English? Unless he pulls some of the stunts that those guys pulled, he has nothing to worry about. He'll get in Cooperstown. Even though some people think he did roid up. Even though some people think he lied about his age. We don't know that. And we can't hold him guilty for things we don't know. Oh, he might have used steroids, but just in case he did, he might be innocent, but just in case he's not, let's just keep him out. Nah, it doesn't work like that. So Stanton might be the first 500 home run hitter eligible for Cooperstown without PED stains on his uniform to be left out. Because he's so ordinary otherwise when he's not hitting home runs. And he in his prime, he looked like his shirt when he was traded to the Yankees, and after that was before the 2018 season. He was the best in the game. He was the best power hitter, run producer in the game. And it's just over time, slowly, his body as he turned 30 and as he entered his 30s, and one injury after the other. It's funny looking back, but it turns out that when Mike Fiers caved his face in with that fastball in 2014, that was the least detrimental injury that he suffered, serious injury that he suffered. And he missed the rest of that season, which I think had about a month left to go. He would have been a home run champ that year, but someone else passed him while he was out. Stanton, will I vote for him? I'm glad you asked. I don't know. 500 home runs is a lot of home runs. But it's not what it used to be. I think if Stanton has a great World Series here and powers the Yankees over the top, like he did in the ALCS, if he cements his place as not only the Yankees' highest paid player, but their biggest star on the biggest stage, if he comes through for them big like he did in the ALCS, it will help. It will help a lot. It will help sway me. It will help sway anyone else who's on the fence about him. It won't lock anything in place. I want Stanton I would love to see him reach the 500, but I would also love to see him get a couple of seasons batting over 250 on the way there, which is unlikely since he's getting older, not younger, and his body's getting probably less reliable, less strong, and as opposed to more. And he's going to be less durable as opposed to more durable as time goes by. Unless he does what certain people did, starts roiding up, which would really put a crimp in those plans for Cooperstown. But I'll tell you what, the Yankees have enough Hall of Famers on that roster, future Hall of Famers, to where they have a chance to win the world. And I hate to say this, because I would never pull for the Yankees against anyone else except they're facing the Dodgers. I would never pull for them for 100 years. And I don't hate the Yankees. I know what happens when the Yankees win. I've seen the Yankees win 5 World Series. And what happens is, when they win World Series, their fans, ESPN, whatever, they become insufferable. They become Yankee, what's what I'm looking for here? I don't want to use profanity here. I don't want to use a nasty term. But we'll just say they become Yankee bootlickers. Everything Yankees this. Suddenly, the bandwagon for the Yankees, which already is pretty sizable, it grows even more once they've won. I mean, I guess it does that for my Giants too, but not to this level. You will see throughout Major League Baseball, if the Yankees win this World Series, which I'm hoping to do only because they're facing the Dodgers, but if they win this World Series next year, there will be at least 30% Yankee fans in every ballpark every world ballpark they go to all next season will have 30% or more Yankee fans. And this is the only reason I'm glad Oakland's not around anymore. Oakland A's have moved or will be moving. Because the Yankees and the Red Sox, whenever they win championships, they take over the Coliseum. Their fans do. Most of them bandwagon, of course. And it's like watching a road game. I literally turned down a chance to go to an A's-Yankees game recently. Or no, that was Giants-Yankees, I'm sorry. Giants-Yankees game last season because I didn't want to deal with it. I just did not want to deal with the obnoxious bandwagon Yankee fans, the obnoxious front-running Yankee fans who have a way of making it all about them. They couldn't even probably name, other than the four top Yankees, Soto, Judge, Stanton, and Cole, if they could even name Cole. They couldn't name anyone else on the roster who really mattered, who really contributed. They couldn't tell you anything about Aaron Boone. All they know was the Yankees. The Yankees are the best. That's my Bronx accent. You like it? No? Good. I'll never do it again. So go Yankees for this one time and this one time only. Throttle the Dodgers. And I don't know how the Dodgers even made it this far. I don't know. I don't know how you can make it to a World Series when you have, 7 starting pitchers on the injured list? What is going on down there with their medical staff? How do these Dodger pitchers, high-priced, low-priced, young, old, how is it they fall apart year after year as they do, and yet the Dodgers don't really miss a beat? I don't get it. Because right now for the Dodgers, this is just off the top of my head, Clayton Kershaw, 12 starts during the season, won't pitch this postseason. Dustin May, remember him? 6 years with the Dodgers. He's played 46 games. He's a great pitcher, but he's only been able to take the field 46 times in 6 years. He missed most of this season, he was already recovering from one injury, and then he had to have esophagus surgery and missed the last 5 months of the season. Never did pitch in 24. I've never heard of anyone, not even a football player, needing esophagus surgery for a pro athlete. He was eating something and something happened, and I don't know, but Dustin May he wouldn't have any luck if he didn't have bad luck. Maybe it's the hair. He's got to cut the hair. The Ronald McDonald hair. It's time to go. So he's out. Not Michael Grove, but who am I thinking of? Who's the young pitcher? Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone is out. He was a contributor for the Dodgers this year. The youngster, what's his name? Ryan? Something Ryan. Made 4 starts. Looked real good. He's out for the season. Tommy John surgery. Walker Buehler barely made it back. We know Ohtani's out as a pitcher. He just answered questions, I think it was today, about what his status was going to be for the World Series as a pitcher. It's a no-go. Dave Roberts said, heck no. He's thrown off the mound in private sessions. He's been thrown off the mound. It looks like his rehab is going to go well, and he'll be pitching for the Dodgers next year, but not in 2024. And he will be hitting for the Dodgers in the World Series, and that's a scary proposition for the Yankees. So you have those guys, and then there's someone else I'm missing. Tony Gonsolin, another starting prospect or candidate. He's a guy who'd be in a rotation. He's out. I don't even know what he's out with. So that's 5-6 guys right there. It makes you wonder if the Dodgers could go back, would they have kept Trevor Bauer? Would they have given him the benefit of the doubt in that supposed sexual assault case? The one that, he was proven innocent of, and yet no one will sign him because he's still kind of a jerk. But he didn't do this. It's proven. I want you to listen to me when I say this. They proved he did not do what this woman said he did. She was a fat liar. Money grubbing liar. So he's innocent of that, but he's not innocent of being a general jerk. He's done a lot of other things that people don't like, including me. But the man could throw a baseball, and he's still only, 34, 35 years old. Why wouldn't anyone not even entertain the idea of bringing him in? It's an injustice. It's not right that he's being seemingly punished for something he didn't do. But he is in a way paying the price for a lot of things he did do that he shouldn't have done, things he shouldn't have said online, and he's got a reputation. I heard from what I hear, his teammates were not torn up about it when he was cut by the Dodgers a couple years ago. But if I'm a Dodger executive, I wish he was still on my team. I know his original contract would have been expired by now, but they would have found a way to keep him around. He would have pitched well. He was one of the best pitchers in the game. Don't forget, he wasn't just a pitcher. He was one of the best until all that came out. Then you have this is a guy who I understand why the Dodgers didn't bring him back. He didn't deserve to come back. And let's pause for a minute, because I talk about the Dodgers in very negative, pejorative terms all the time because I'm a Giants fan, and it's in my DNA to hate the Dodgers. And I do it as well as anyone. But most of my hatred is manufactured. I don't really, except for the 2021 when they knocked out my Giants from the playoffs and celebrated at Oracle Park. I've never really lost sleep over anything the Dodgers have done. When they won the 20 World Series, I was, I wanted to throw up, of course, but it didn't ruin my life. It didn't affect my life. So when you hear me calling the Dodgers things like sewer urchins and disease-ridden flea bags, it's not really coming from the heart. It's more to make you laugh than it is anything else. But when I call someone like this guy a name, he deserves it, because there's regular Dodger scum, which I wouldn't call him scum. There's regular Dodger trash, and then there's general social trash. And Julio Urias fell into that category of social trash the moment he decided to beat up his wife the first time. Gets a second chance. What does he do with a second chance? He beats her up again. Special place in hell for people like that. You don't do that. And I don't care how well he didn't have a great year last year on the mound. It doesn't matter. He had to go. I don't blame the Dodgers for letting him go, and I wouldn't bring him back under any circumstances. Not under any circumstances can you bring. You couldn't trust him. He has no control over his emotions. He's in what seems to be, at least from one angle, a toxic relationship that he feels is appropriate to solve problems with in this relationship with his hands, which is a big no-no for me. And I have a temper. I get emotional, but my hands stay in my pockets. His don't. That's the difference. And it gets to a point where it's no longer even about whether or not you can pitch in the World Series, whether or not you can pitch in the major leagues, whether or not you can make 30 starts and stay healthy. I'm sure he could probably do those things still. He's only, 27, 28 years old? But he's not fit to do so mentally. And I would not wish him on even the Dodgers, because this goes above sports. When you're talking about a man, not once but twice, publicly beating up his wife. I think she's his wife. She might be his girlfriend for one of those. I don't know. I have to look it up. We talk about someone who did it twice. Once was bad enough. He'll never learn his lesson. I don't think he served any time for it. If so, it wasn't much. So the Dodgers aren't missing him, but they might be missing Bauer. Moving on to, we've already gotten 34 minutes in. I didn't even breach the topic of opening night last night for the Golden State Warriors. If you didn't hear, last night's final was announced as 139 for the Warriors, 104 for the Portland Trailblazers up in Portland. However, that score has been amended because somehow a free throw was not counted, and they figured it out. So Golden State actually beat Portland by 36 points, extending the record it set for opening night margin of victory from 35 to 36 points, 140 to 104. Steve Kerr played 11 guys in the first quarter. Ironically, none of them was Moses Moody, who just signed a very handsome extension for the Warriors. But Moses did get in the game, and she played 15 minutes, played well. Everyone on the roster up and down played well, except for maybe Jonathan Kuminga. And I'm not worried about Kuminga. He's playing with. He's never been a great. He's never been combining him with Wiggins has never led to great results for either one of them until yesterday when Wiggins popped in 20 points. Wiggins, of course, lost his father, former NBA player Mitchell Wiggins, over the summer, which for Andrew, the basketball player, is probably the best thing that could happen to him as a basketball player. As a son, I'm sure it's awful. He left the team how many times to go be with his dad, or handle personal problems which never were confirmed to be going to be with his father, but obviously now that has to be what it was. He never really resembled in the last couple seasons the same player who was such a major contributor to the 2022 Warriors championship. And how could you be? Your parent is dying right in front of you. I don't know what he died from. But whatever it was, it must have been eating away at him for Wiggins to leave the team for 2 long periods over the last couple of years. At least 2. Maybe it might even been more than that. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how they were broken up, but I know he was gone for long stretches, more than once. But now his father has passed. Hopefully his father is no longer suffering. Now Andrew can put most of his energy and focus into basketball again, which obviously I'm sure he's wanted to do all along, but how can you when you're in that position? You don't want to see a loved one die like that. He played very well on opening night. Poured in 20 points, hit threes, cut to the basket, passed the ball, was aggressive. All the things that he fails to do when he's in that bad headspace. It was a welcome sight. And he started as shooting guard. You may have heard we have an opening as shooting guard coming into the season. At least we had an opening somewhere around July, August, when Klay Thompson was traded to not traded, but allowed to sign with the Dallas Mavericks. Golden State did bring in Buddy Hield, who's been a starter for much of his career, but not the entire thing. And Hield came off the bench for the Warriors, also played very well, and from everything I'm hearing and reading, is very popular in the locker room. Something that the man he's replacing on the roster, Klay, ceased to be in the last couple of years. It just comes a time when it's time. It's just the time is up. And I feel for Klay. I feel for him. A lot of people feel for him for what he went through, how he was robbed of 2 years of his prime by injuries. First to the ACL and then to the Achilles. He was robbed of 2 years of his prime, and when he came back, he was not the same guy. Who would be? Thing is, you could see in his body language, you could see his interaction with his teammates, you could hear it in interviews, you could hear Klay used to never mix it up with anybody on the floor. As I clean a spot off my screen here, it's annoying me because it looks like I have a third nostril. Klay mixed it up with one guy his whole career before he got hurt that I can remember, and that was Nick Collins. And that never got physical. Zach Collins, I'm sorry. And that never got physical. Bradley Beal hit him upside the head. Well, no, not Bradley Beal. Kelly Oubre hit him upside the head once while defending Bradley Beal. And that was the extent of Klay's discretions, but it seemed like he was getting into it more often with opposing players. Remember Devin Booker, season before last. Remember he got into it with who am I thinking of? He got ejected for getting into it with a guy from Minnesota last year. Him and Draymond both got ejected at the same time. Even though that was may have been a bit of an overreaction on their officials' part, but still, Klay was just not the same guy. He just wasn't. I mean, how could you be? And I'm not excusing anything I've heard about behavior turning south. There was a texter into the 95.7 The Game today who claimed to have met Thompson a number of times and described him as a jerk each time. I don't know when that timeline applies. I don't know if we can't verify if it's true or not, obviously. But even if you take this person at their word, I mean, given what the conversation was, I don't think they were lying. I think it was true. And you can always catch an athlete at a bad time. They're asked to do a lot of things. They don't get a lot of privacy when they're out in public. But it just goes to show you, because Klay used to be the most lovable, accessible guy around. He used to be. Before he came back from the surgeries and realized that he could not do the same things he used to do. His bad games far outweighed his good games. He used to shoot 10 of 16, maybe 10 of 17 every night, knock down 4 threes, 5 threes. You could count on that maybe 7 or 8 times out of 10 games. Maybe for the last couple of years, you can count on it 2 times out of 10 games. And I'd like to tell you about 0 for 10. 0 for 10 to end his Warriors career in that playoff against Sac. I mean, come on. It was time. It was time for them to divorce. The memories will always be there. The love for what he did, what he meant for this team, will never go away. But it's like when someone passes away. You tend to remember the good times more than you remember the bad. Way more. Sometimes you don't even remember the bad times at all. Or at least you brush them aside like they weren't as bad as they actually were. Like maybe, it wasn't so bad. We do it with breakups. I've done with breakups. Thinking about exes. And I think about the bad times. It wasn't so bad. When the truth is, it was. That's why you broke up. And that's why so many people who break up and get back together in these toxic relationships end up unhappy. Some make it. Most don't. You remember the good. But the truth is, you have to excise folks, and in this case, teams, from your existence, from your world. And Klay, it was time for Klay to move on to the next chapter of his life, one that did not include the Golden State Warriors. And it was time for the Warriors to move on from someone who no longer helped them on the court, or even off the court. He was certainly not someone you'd want to mentor the young players. Ego was not allowing that. And there was a time when that was not true, but people do change, situations change. Not everything can be hugs and kisses and lollipops and chocolates all the time. And eventually, marriages, in this case, a marriage between a team and a superstar player, they all run their course. There is no superstar player, there's no even regular player, but there's no superstar player that's played 80 years for one team. Eventually, their time is up. Whether it's due to age, whether it's due to money, whether it's due to, in this case, a combination of both, the deteriorating skills. But we wish Klay all the best. Everyone I know, there is no one I know who holds anything against Klay. In fact, when I told my group chat tonight, shout out to 84, OB3, EC1K, and AJ. Shout out to all you fine people who I group chatted about Klay's 6 3-pointers for the Dallas Mavericks tonight in his debut for the team, which I think set a Dallas record. We were all happy for him. Not one word of contempt. No one wishes him anything but the best. And it looks like he's off to a good start there. Will he sustain it? That's questionable, but it's certainly not impossible. Changes of scenery can work wonders. We will keep our eyes on that, as well as Thursday Night Football tonight was between the sorry, mouth's getting a little dry here as we enter our 45th minute. We have Thursday Night Football tonight between the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Rams, which ended on a safety as Matthew Stafford was fighting for his life in the end zone. He was face masked, and it was pretty obvious. It was so obvious that the player who did it, whose name I don't have right now, reacted with hands on his helmet as if to say, "Oh God, I screwed up." But the refs, the officials, did not call it. The face mask went uncalled. It went down as a safety. It would have been a first down, obviously, for Stafford, and the Rams would have had more life. And it's not a reviewable play. It's not one of the ones that the officials can look up. Why you cannot review some plays? Most plays you can, but there's some you can't. I'll never get that. This is one of my Skillz on Pills moments. Why are you going to have replay? By the way, Skillz on Pills. This is one of them. And I take this because my blood pressure runs high, in part because of all the injustice I see in the world of sports, all the nonsense and wackiness I see in the world of sports that could be prevented and isn't. That's why I take blood pressure medicine. That's why we have Skillz on Pills. And yeah, I'm going to target instant replay. Now, I'm grateful that we have instant replay at all in any of the sports, because when I first started watching pro sports, the NFL was the only sport that had it, and it soon went away. For 5 years, I think it was in 93 It went away and came back in '99, completely revised. It's been there ever since, and it's been a godsend in a lot of cases. It's been useless in others. Why is there any, other than balls and strikes in baseball, everything should be reviewable, and it isn't. Why can you not, if there's any reason to believe, and if you're an official, what are you looking at? You have to, if you don't see the actual face mask to Stafford, at the very least, oh, by the way, Stafford got Puka Nacua and Cooper cut back tonight, so good for him. If you don't see that, then you have to at least see the reaction of the players around him. Because I think there was at least another Viking who was reacting to the face mask. They all thought they were going to be forced with a long situation against the Rams on the first down, hold a set of downs for the Rams as they tried to come back. You have to be able to say, uh-oh, maybe we blew something. And then you as an official, because the number one thing you got to do is get the call right. What if that had been a Super Bowl ended on a non-call for a face mask? I'm grateful that we have the replay. I remember when baseball did not have, and if you don't know this, I'm going to tell you a quick story. Baseball had limited replay in the late 2000s. Very limited. You can only review boundary calls, as they called it, like were home runs fair or foul, were home runs interfered with or not. And because of that, Benji Molina, this is the first, I believe he was the, I don't think the Giants were the first team to use it, but they were certainly one of the first. Benji Molina was forced out of a game because of a replay call that was overturned. He had hit a home run that is originally, if I remember correctly, it was ruled a double. When it was ruled a double, Bruce Bochy pinch ran for him at second base, but then the call was reversed from double to home run. But they would not allow Molina back in the game at that point to circle the bases. They forced the pinch runner to stay in. Which Bochy is like, well, I only took him out because you called it a double incorrectly. And the umpire's like, and chew on their fingers. They're not very. Ball. This is my umpire impersonation, by the way. Strike, ball two, safe, out. Well, actually, the alcohol will be like, oh, my ball. That's how I view the intelligence of today's umpires. Today's umpires are, by and large, a joke. But that's a story for another show. We're closing on an hour for this show, which I was not planning to do. So anyway, that was replay in baseball. Skills on pills. We got to get replay where it belongs. We got to make it matter. We got to make it efficient. We got to make it usable in every situation. And we've reached we're over 50 minutes now. I just want to let you know that my 49ers will be taking on and crushing the Dallas Cowboys coming up on Sunday Night Football. But for now, I'm going to let you guys go. I think you've suffered enough through 50 minutes of me yammering on. This has been Skills on Sports. I hope to be back very soon with you to talk. I got so much more to talk about. Baseball players, baseball legends who've passed away, other things going on in the world of sports, more NBA stuff. So much on the docket. Couldn't fit it all in one show here tonight. Hope to do it for you next time. Until then, peace. Go Niners.